Hello, and thank you for joining me to see the Christmas tree decorations that I've been making. So they're made from just scraps of fabric and felt beads that I had at home. And I'm sure that you will have the same things at home too. And also clothes pegs and pipe cleaners that are really easy and cheap to buy. I made a vintage lady in a cloak going shopping with her dog. I did a collie because got lots of inspiration for those. But you can let your imagination run riot and do like a Nutcracker theme, an Alice in Wonderland theme, or a Harry Potter theme, or just elves or fairies. I think there's something really special about Christmas decorations that you've made yourself and that you bring out every year. And the ones that I'm making are really in keeping with that 1940s make do and mend spirit. People from that time do remember peg doll elves and things hanging from the tree. I think in the time that we're living now, where money is short and we don't want to contribute to landfill, I think making the most of little scraps you have at home to make precious little things is kind of really lovely. So I wanted to show you something I made last year, which is this bunting. And it's made from hessian, as you can see. So it's made from hessian. I got the hessian sack from the garden centre. They were literally just giving them away. But you can get hessian, like their coffee sacks, really easily on eBay. Then I appliqued on a robin and then holly, and then threaded them alternately onto a piece of like kind of twine that you would get at a gardening centre too, and just to hold each one in place. I kind of just did a little knot, but it's got a really nice kind of rustic make do and mend Christmas spirit, and I'll show you that up on the mantelpiece. So right now I'll get on and show you my Christmas tree decoration. I'm going to make hanging Christmas tree decorations using wooden clothes pegs and pipe cleaners. Of course, every home in the 40s would have had wooden clothes pegs, and they're still quite cheap to buy. And this is how you're going to construct your tree decoration, literally by creating a little doll or little creature around the clothes peg, and the arms are simply made of pipe cleaners. So you start by painting a little face on your clothes pegs, which you can do with paint. I'm using nail polish because despite my best intentions to do my nails nicely for you in these videos, I still have full nail polish. So I thought, well, I'll use them for this project. And then you need your scraps of fabric and felt, especially obviously in Christmas colours like the reds and greens, which I'm probably going to use for my holly decoration. So with the nail polish, you start by, or I started by painting a little mouth, and the brush from the nail polish was a bit too thick, so I used the end of a pencil, which I could then sharpen down. And for a girl doll, you create just a little pout, so you kind of just basically make a little spot of colour for the mouth and then just draw out the corners so that she's got a nice little pout. And then I used a paler pink just to give the cheeks a little bit of a blush, and then you apply that symmetrically to each side, just above the mouth, obviously. And this doesn't need to be a work of art because the main focus is going to be on the fabric decorations. It's just a sort of simple face, so you don't need to stress about this stage. And then I was literally looking around the home for what I could use, and then I found this blue pen, and I thought I'll just paint on the eyes with this blue pen. So that's it, just a sort of simple little face. And if you were going to do a chap, you would leave out the pout and just do a smile like that for a chap, and then same way, just give him pink cheeks and then paint on his eyes or draw on his eyes symmetrically, and then he's ready to go with a nice bright smile and bright blue eyes, and that's him kind of ready to be dressed. So I started by, I thought I'd make a cloak for the closed peg doll Christmas tree decoration that's already part dressed. And I had this corduroy fabric, and it struck me that the colours are quite Christmassy. I made the cloak from two rectangles, a larger one and a smaller one, and I also added hair, which from this curly fleece. And I literally made the cloak really simply by turning under the edges and stitching, and then gathering up the top edge of the rectangle to create the cloak. And I cut little slits from the arms to pull through, and that smaller rectangle you can see there on my machine, that's going to make the hood. And there she is with her arms pushed through. And I also thought perhaps she should have a border collie. Surely everybody should have a border collie. So I made this one just by, I sort of made a white dog by stuffing felt, and then I attached black shapes to make him her into a border collie. And then I've got this little box of seed beads that make brilliant eyes, and I got that really cheaply from Amazon, helping to send Jeff Bezos to the moon. But it's quite a good little box of seed beads, and it came with a beading needle and threads too. And then I made my border collie a nice bright red Christmassy lead, so that he or she could hang nicely from my Christmas doll dog walker. And there they are with her fleecy hair and her cape and her border collie companion. And then I made a rabbit, and the rabbit is just, I use a tiny bit of cotton wool or polyfill fibre just to kind of add a little bit to give him a longer nose. And then I used a brown felt to create a kind of rabbit face. I created an oval and then gathered it around the neck and added his ears. And then I thought he should wear a pair of midnight blue starry dungarees with a little pocket. And I haven't done it yet, but I thought I might put a little carrot in his pocket. But at the moment here, I'm making his dungarees. So you tie a pipe cleaner round, just securely round the neck to make his arms. You can see me just twisting it round there and measuring the length of his arms before just kind of cutting one end off with wire cutters. And then I used the same brown felt I'd used for his head and ears to cover the arms and also part of his body, because he's not going to wear a shirt, he's just going to wear his dungarees. So I cut out felt, and again, it doesn't have to be a work of art or brilliant. You just cover up the pipe cleaner and stitch it down. And I thought he should have a yellow crown too, because after all he is a Christmassy rabbit tree decoration. So I made him a little crown from yellow felt and stitched that onto the top of his head. And of course then every tree ornament needs to hang from a loop of embroidery thread. So I also cut just a little length of yellow embroidery thread and then stitched that kind of through the top of the crown onto the top of his head so that he could hang. And I also just cut a strip of red felt and fringed it and tied it around his neck, so he's got a kind of jolly red scarf, and he's got his seed bead eyes and his whiskers. And I also thought perhaps he should be carrying a jolly present. So I just cut a strip of bright yellow felt and folded it into a rectangle and stuffed it with polyfill, and then stitched it up and then stitched it to his arms on either side. And I also gave the presents a nice kind of glittery bow, which was some glittery embroidery thread that I had. It's quite unravelly, but it doesn't really matter. It adds to the whole glittery effect. And there is my Christmas tree rabbit decoration. And yeah, oh, that's just adding that loop to hang him from the tree. And then I started on my holly tree elf decoration. So I cut out the holly leaves. Actually, I just did it by eye. I started drawing them on, and then I thought, no, they're quite easy shapes. So I kind of got one right, and then I used it as a template and cut out 3 holly leaves in all, and I left like a flat bit at the top so that it would go round her waist. And I decided on 2 holly leaves either side at the front and 1 holly leaf at the back to form a nice holly leaf skirt. And I thought, oh, she should probably wear a little kind of elfin holly-ish hat, and then with a kind of scarlet dress underneath, and be a nice sort of, bright berry red and green holly elf. And I made little slits either side of a rectangle of red felt and just created this fringe around the neck of the dress. This is very much actually like those 40s felt flowers I did, that cutting this little fringe was something they often did. And I wrapped her pipe cleaner arms in the red felt too, and then also created a sort of fringe around the sleeves and sewed up the back of her dress. So there she is, and then I positioned on the holly leaves and sewed them on, and I also created a little pixie cap. So there's her dress, and I used the same glittery embroidery thread that I used for the rabbit's present to create glittery hair for her. And then I sewed her hat securely onto the back of the dress. That's just stitching around the hem of the dress too. And I gave her a glittery belt, and there she is, a little sort of holly elf. And you could, I didn't have time, but you could add wings to her, which would be really sweet. And I think I will embroider the leaves at a later date. And just about now to put my tree ornaments on my tree. And here is my Christmas dog walker. And this other bit, there is my holly tree elf. It would have been nice to have my tree lights on, but they were actually rather dazzling close up when I was photographing my tree ornaments. So I left the fairy lights off, but it is actually, in real life even prettier with them on. And then just moving over to my Christmas rabbit holding his present in his crown. And I think these are really characterful, and it would actually be nice to keep adding to them over the years and have a whole tree of specially made ornaments. And I also wanted to show you the bunting that I made last Christmas that I mentioned in the introduction, and that's it on the mantelpiece. And as you can see, it's very jolly and cost like nearly nothing to make. and that's be something that I bring out every year as well now. Thank you so much for watching me, and I hope you'll join me next week when I'll be making a pretty special dress. I was going to say the dogs need walking, but they've come over a bit a bit woozy. Say goodbye. Sort of. What a lot of effort. Pixie, in a way, goodbye. Bye.